My name is Jenny Lyles. I'm a licensed clinical social worker in Independence, Missouri, and I am using this as an introduction to who I am and what I believe. It's called The Safety to Heal, and I hope you like it. Every now and then someone finds me and they just break my heart. A woman who jumps at shadows, a child who whispers, convinced that their parent is somehow able to listen in on us in their session, a man who breaks down when my kindness doesn't crack, gay and transgender folk flinching, waiting for me to mock them or invalidate them. Working with these folks, it's like grading a dog that has been whipped, that is still being whipped when the neighbors aren't looking. It's like looking at a mirror of my own childhood and young adulthood. Humans need to be safe to heal. If the monster in their life is still beating them, if every time they enter an empty room the monster is in danger of popping out of a corner, if they still have to watch every word, every movement, even every thought, lest they be punished, anything I can do is just a bandage over a wound that needs sutures and antibiotics and maybe even surgery. People ask me sometimes why I'm so unflinchingly progressive, why I'm brutally direct with people, why I won't just close my eyes and my mouth and just let it go sometimes. And the answer is because so many people aren't safe. So many people continue to deal with monsters in their homes, their jobs, their communities, and of all the political philosophies I've studied, only progressivism has the potential to eventually infuse the world with that utter kindness and honesty that can eventually lead to safety for the majority of the billions of people in this big blue marble. I'm not just talking about emotional safety here. I'm talking about the woman whose children remain in danger from the abusive ex that the courts don't or won't do anything about. I'm talking about the child I've hotlined half a dozen times with the guardian who sweet talks the investigator every single time and convinces them that the child is imagining things. I'm talking about the man who has seen his friends shot in front of him and his children threatened to keep him in line. I'm talking about the non-binary person who was beaten for being too butch or too sissy by those who claim to love him. For a long time, I was one of those girls who jumped at shadows, who flinched at every raised voice and hand. For long after he was out of my life, and even after he was dead, he haunted my dreams. I couldn't work for a man because a man's raised voice changed me in ways I couldn't control. I would swing wildly off balance and start being totally subservient or utterly defiant, and sometimes, confusingly, a mixture of both. After the last fist falls, the last scream dies down, the last shot stops echoing, the nightmares, the ghosts, and the deep, deep body memories remain. They remain until someone, not always or even usually a professional, or even someone other than the self, welcomes you home and gives you warmth and safety. My marriage is going to be old enough to drink in less than 2 months. When I met my husband, I was brittle and fragile and had a volcanic temper that would melt into a waterfall of tears. We would be in the middle of making love and making joy, and suddenly I would scream and cry and push him away and start crying and apologizing and yelling at him and beating at his strong arms as he would hold me and rock me and soothe me. Or he would turn sullenly away because he wasn't and isn't a saint and tell me to get a grip on myself, and then quietly come up to me and hold me 20 minutes later or a day without a word. I had never been safe. My compassion, my kindness had been used against me my whole life. I thought too much, I talked too much, I laughed too much, I took up too much space, made too much noise, cared too much, was too fucking sensitive. My God, girl, why can't you just let it go? And this man, this smart, kind man, didn't try to tell me I was okay, didn't ignore my self-perceived flaws, but he embraced them. He loved me and valued me and never once tried to change me. He liked that I was intelligent and competitive about it. He liked that I was always trying to fix broken things and broken people and couldn't throw anything or anyone away. He liked that when I thought something was truly funny, I would bray and cackle and guffaw. He liked that I threw myself into projects and threw them away when they didn't fit anymore. He got it that I liked being around people, but was terrified too, that people were just putting up with me, that they could see how broken and rotten I was at the core. And in his safe arms, I healed. In his safe arms, little by little, I learned to live in and with the world again. And then to be one of the protectors who finds those who have been broken and thrown off by life and sits down beside them and listens and loves and waits and encourages and values them until little by little they gather strength and courage and get up again. My husband, my safe, loving husband, needs me now. He is one of the broken, tossed away things the world has thrown off. His love of finding out what is wrong with an air conditioning unit or a heater or a refrigeration unit and fixing it, of doing for others and then icing down the pain so he can get up and do it again, over 2 long decades has wrecked his body. And now he lives in a pain that every day that I try not to imagine, because seeing makes me realize how selfish I am to want him with me for another decade, 2, a dozen. He was the one who gave me the strength, the courage to heal others. The drive was always mine, even some of the skill, but the deep well of faith and love that one must draw on to heal, that came from him. People ask me why I can't just stop speaking out. Why, when children are caged at the border or given lead-filled water at Flint, or elders are kicked out of nursing homes in Louisiana, or teens are shot in a high school, or hurricane survivors wait for months and years for their government to help them, why can't I just post fuzzy kittens and rainbow memes that embrace the good of the world? Why can't I just stop talking politics? Because safety must come first. We must value those among us that aren't economic units, whose value is in the love they have to give, the beauty they have made, the joy they are able to feel. We have to embrace the broken people and give them the safety to heal, protecting them and ourselves from them if needed, but also providing light and love and faith in their ability to grow. We must, without resentment, reach out to the discarded warrior begging for change at the freeway exit, and the woman in the winter coat in 90-degree heat who is mumbling something incomprehensible as you try to hand her a bottle of water. And this safety, it must come from the root that all people are valuable, are worth consideration, time, love, that even if we can't love them ourselves, for they rub our raw spots as we rub theirs, and that they are essentially human, essentially lovable, essentially worthy. That even as we say, your words, your beliefs, your actions are harmful, hateful, spiteful, evil, we can say, your damage, you're lashing out. I get that, because I too am human and not immune to rage and spite and smallness. Each of us a dose of safety, of grace, of justice, and where those things are not to be found, those of us who have been granted enough safety in our lives to become warriors of the mind, body, and spirit, we need to fight to bring them to as many people as we can. My husband has no health insurance. The timing of his last job was terrible, and we made the wrong choice to try for one more year of the safety of a two-job household. Each month, it is a struggle to buy the prescriptions that keep his agony marginally at bay. Each day, I wonder if we had declined the surgeries, found a different line of work for him a decade ago, would we be better off, or would he resent giving up the work he loved, the life he loved with other men and women who work with their hands to bring comfort and safety to others? Safety in my life, safety in the world. Of course, in the end, safety is always an illusion, but so many things can be made emotionally safe. So many worlds can be made places where people are embraced and held up and valued for all their glorious differences. Children are living in tent cities in El Paso, Texas. The flaming anus of the United States that burns with hemorrhoidal heat in the summer. Are we doing enough to rescue them? To save them and ourselves from the consequences of the trauma we're inflicting on them? Gay and transgender folk in our schools and the institutions of our country. Are we doing enough to stop the slow death of self that comes from denying essential parts of ourselves, pretending, acquiescing, self-abnegating? Sex workers, migrant farmers, scrappers, grocery clerks, fry cooks, and assembly line workers. Are we doing enough to be sure their work is safe, valued, able to feed a family? Are we building a culture where we nurture the best in ourselves and each other? Or are we building one where we tear one another down over who we are or what we do? People who used to have a value in the economy and no longer do, and those who never did? Are we building a culture? Are we doing enough to help them find a value outside the coin they bring home? Are we embracing the gifts of the cousin who always has kind words but can't read a single one of them? Are we valuing the grandfather who carries a can of oxygen with him everywhere and nothing but love for his family and friends? Are we demanding the best of the most blessed among us, the wealthy, the powerful, the privileged? Are we reminding them that there but for the grace of God you go, that all of these dollars and doors and accolades are illusions and easily overturned, that what truly matters about a person is whether they made children smile and healed broken hearts and built beauty and futures for all of us and this fragile blue marble we live on? Are we saying if we can afford to destroy, we can afford to build? If we can afford a wall, we can afford a bridge? If we can afford to reject, we can afford to care? Or are we letting wealth and power and privilege float in their bath of saltwater safety, insulated from the species death that we all move toward if we don't stop everything from going down the drain? Safety first. I am at that point, after 2 decades of safety in a 5-decade life, that my safety is no longer the important safety. I am willing to sit in front of ongoing trucks to protect those that come after. I'm willing to die or live in a holding action to allow those I work with to move their troops into position to ensure the safety of all of us, to ensure that love finds its path, that people find their value and their values. Dying is easy, young man. Living is harder. Hats off, Lin-Manuel. Safety is a fleeting thing that needs to be constantly nourished from the inside and out until at last it becomes self-generating, a feeling that one has done enough, that one is worthy enough, that one is human enough to allow oneself to simply do what is right, regardless of the consequences. And when we reach that point, not disease, nor death, nor injury can truly take our safety from us, for it is within us, in that hard-fought core of being that says to the world, I love and am loved, and give and am gifted, and it is enough. I'm not sure if this is an essay or a poem or a song. It is a cry of pain and of triumph, of joy and of agony. It is the song of love and life. It declares that I am human, and both less and more than human. I am connected to each and every other person and being and mote in the universe. And I am utterly alone. And all of it, in the end, the only safety is in living one's life to the utmost, giving and grieving and loving and despairing. And I am utterly sure it is all worth it. Go in grace, y'all.